I'm Soleil Dakota, and this is Musical Medicine. Thank you so much for joining us. I'd like to say that October is Breast Cancer Awareness Month, and we're here to offer our support and to acknowledge women on their healing journey. I'd like to welcome back Barbara Musser from last week, author of Sexy After Cancer, Meeting Your Inner Aphrodite on the Breast Cancer Journey. Thank you, Barbara. We're so happy to have you again.
Delighted to be back.
Yes. I'm going to give a bio of Barbara. Barbara Musser had breast cancer in 1989 as a young single woman. She married and had a child after treatment. As a sex educator and workshop facilitator for 20 plus years, she has supported many women and their partners and families along the journey. Interviewed hundreds of women about their experiences and needs, worked with support groups on the subject of sexuality and intimacy, presented to tumor boards, interviewed many surgeons, plastic surgeons, and oncologists about the subject. Barbara is a frequent speaker on sexuality and intimacy. She is a member of the American Association of Sexuality Educators, Counselors, and Therapists, and the International Society for the Study of Women's Sexual Health. Welcome back, Barbara.
Thank you.
I'd like to open the show by quoting your book and talking about beauty. Mm-hmm. Beauty has so many aspects: a beautiful heart, kindness and generosity of spirit, speaking the truth, compassion for yourself and others, being comfortable in our own skin, knowing that we are beautiful. So Barbara, tell us, what can we do to begin to embrace our own beauty?
Well, like we talked about last week, I think the first step is accepting ourselves where we are, right where we are. And, you know, let's face it, we live in a media-crazed world where you can't quite measure up to the standards, right?
Yes,
but we
that's
still
right.
try to do that. I don't know one woman who doesn't try to measure up, even though they know that the images that they see are airbrushed and so on.
Right.
And so to accept ourselves as we are, particularly as we're changed by cancer and the cancer treatments, is the first step. And what happens with that, when we accept ourselves, we begin to take the power away from the media back to ourselves so that we can define beauty on our terms, not on what the cover of Vogue magazine says, not what the cosmetic companies say, none of that stuff. And that is a huge factor in beauty. When we take back and say, I'm beautiful on my terms because I say so,
right.
Wow, that in itself is beautiful, no matter what you look like. You know, you've probably had the experience of you walk into a room or a party or someplace and there's a woman, or it could be a man, that people just gravitate to, like they're drawn like flies to honey, right? Bees to honey. And it's because of how that person radiates their presence, who they are. Oftentimes they're not the most beautiful or handsome person in the room, but they're the person with the most charisma.
Right.
You know,
Yeah,
it's a very interesting thing, you know, and now at this stage in my life, in my 60s, I've never felt more beautiful than I feel now. And there are times when I look in the mirror and I think, not the media image of beauty, but I don't care. I don't care. Because I never fit that image.
That is really empowering.
Now I fit my image.
Right. Congratulations.
And I think that that's what's possible for every woman and every man. And I think it's imperative to do that, because otherwise we're caught in this trap of always trying to change ourselves into something that we're not.
In your book, one of the chapters was Mirror, Mirror, and you had some exercises, and I thought that was really inspiring. And I haven't started the 30-day program yet, but just to look into the mirror and to speak to myself and to embrace my own beauty and to reprogram myself, so to speak. And
that's exactly what it is. It's reprogramming. Yeah.
So let's talk about sexy. What is sexy?
Okay. Well, I think this conversation we just had about defining beauty on our own terms is a big piece of that. So if you stop and think about who are the people that you think are sexy, who comes to mind?
Well, I saw the recent cover of Oprah. Have you seen the Oprah?
With her hair?
Yes.
Yes.
I was like, that's amazing.
Yeah. And same as I was just talking about before, about who I'm drawn to in the room is people who are comfortable in their own skin, who have the signs on their face of a life well lived, and that they're happy with that. They're satisfied with that. I look at people's hands. Have these hands done good work in the world? Have they created beauty? Have they brought more love into the world? That's really sexy to me. People who are intelligent. I mean, I think Hillary Clinton is really sexy.
I do too.
It's not because of how she looks, right? She's smart, she's powerful, she's diplomatic. She gets things done. She's so supportive of women and girls and families. Very sexy.
She survived a marriage crisis gracefully.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. So when you start to take that apart and look at, well, what are the elements of that? So I think the first one is confidence. Confidence in who you are as a person. Confidence that you have to be doing this TV show. That's fantastic.
Yeah,
so confidence is a big piece of it. Liking who you are and accepting yourself and knowing the things that you feel rock solid about yourself.
Yes, I remember there was a piece in the chapter about making a list of things I like about myself and referring to them like 3 things. Like I like my smile or
whatever it is.
simple.
I was talking to somebody yesterday and they were talking about mastery and saying that everybody's masterful at something. And she said that she's really masterful at getting stains out of clothing and furniture and so on. And I started thinking, what am I masterful about? I make the best Caesar salad dressing on the planet.
All right.
But there's something that, like, I'm rock solid about that.
Wow.
So I know that.
Yeah.
And when I offer that, whatever else it is that I'm masterful about, and people receive that, they feel good. They're drawn to that. It's a gift that they get given. So those are some of the elements of what I think sexy is, and that everybody can determine. It's just like defining beauty on your own terms. You define what's sexy on your terms. It's not about the shape of your breasts or the size of your waist or the size of your bank account. None of that. It's really what you say. And when you take that in and you embody that, whatever it is, that is sexy.
Thank you. That's really inspiring.
It's true, right?
Yeah, it's true. One of your chapters, I think it's in, I'm not sure, maybe the Fear Factor, but you talk about the inner bullies and the running dialogue. So how can we start to change that station?
Yeah. Well, first of all, let me just say why I think it's important to do that. So the average person thinks about 60,000 thoughts a day. And only 5 to 10% of those thoughts are consciously chosen thoughts. The rest of them are all automatic programming. That's the bullies. It's that voice that's constantly running a commentary in your head. And if you don't know what I mean, it's the one that's saying, what voice, what commentary? We all have it, right? And mostly it's negative stuff. Critical, judgmental kinds of things. You're too fat, you're too thin, you're too tall, you're too short, you're not nice enough, you're la 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 la. And because it's constant and it's unconscious, we're not even aware of our self-talk. But it's like we all have a lot of trash in our heads. So it's important to be able to take that trash out and to put new messages in. So one way I think about it is it's like we have a radio station that's playing in our head all the time, and the call letters of that station are KFUK, right? All criticism all the time. And so what we do is we create a new station, the KLUV station, which are loving, kind messages. So what you do is first you decide that you're going to do something about this self-talk, and then once you do that, you become a whole lot more aware of it. And when you find yourself thinking something that's negative or makes you feel bad, you consciously replace it with another thought. And it could be as simple a thought as, I love you. I love you. We don't tell ourselves that enough. And so over time, it begins to create this new channel. And then that mirror practice that you were talking about is another way to do that. And the reason that practice needs to happen for a minimum of 30 days is because what you're doing with that is, and with this changing the station, is you're literally creating a new neuronal pathway in your brain, a habituated action groove, and it takes that long for it to start to become a habituated thought. So that's a really important thing to do, and most people don't think that they can do anything about those thoughts because that's just the way it is, because they're so automatic. But we really can do something about that, and that is really, really powerful.
I know I do that throughout the day. If I find myself thinking a negative thought or something derogatory, something simple towards someone, I just back up and refill the groove with some fertile soil, and then I'm relieved, and I'm well-wishing myself and others. And
exactly, and it's part of what we can do too with that whole conversation about what's sexy.
Yeah.
You know, you can look at yourself in the mirror and say, you are sexy.
Right.
You're beautiful. You're hot. You're gorgeous. Whoever gets to be with you is really lucky. Why not?
Right, that's right. I love that.
Yeah.
So tell us about sexuality and our sense of well-being and our sense of self-esteem that goes along with expressing our sexuality.
Okay, well, with breast cancer, like we were talking about before, with the emphasis in our culture of having beautiful breasts or perfect breasts, none of us have perfect breasts anyway. And then when they get altered surgically or with other treatments as a result of breast cancer, we know for sure that we don't. Well, that has a big impact on our sense of self-esteem and on our sense of our attractiveness and our desirability and our beauty as women. So all of that gets damaged during breast cancer. So that's why all these different practices we've been talking about mirror work and forgiveness and acceptance and so on. So that's like the foundation work. And once you get to that point of accepting and loving yourself, then it's a great time to start talking about sex. So with breast cancer and cancer treatments, our bodies don't work in the same ways as they did before, especially if we've had chemotherapy, because that puts you into instant menopause. And so the tissue changes and things don't function the same way. And with hormone suppression, our libido can really take a dive. So it's important to understand that most people think that sex is some skin being inserted into some other skin and rubbing around a little and some fluids exchanged, and that's sex, right? That's intercourse and an orgasm. But sex is so much more than that. So just think about this. If you took the letters SEX and made that into an acronym where each one of those letters is the first letter of another word, maybe sex could be sensual energy exchange.
That's great. I love that.
Or spiritual energy exchange. Well, what do I mean by that?
Okay.
So one of the things we talked about last time was about intimacy during treatment. And that one way to keep intimacy is to look into our eyes and breathe. So a very simple but profound practice is to sit down with your partner and sit a little closer than we're sitting, maybe just arm's length apart, and hold hands and look into each other's eyes and breathe. No talking, looking and breathing, and looking and breathing. And in the beginning, that can feel really awkward because most of us don't do that. you think about you get in an
That's
elevator.
really intimate.
You get in an elevator and
Yeah.
everybody's looking at the number, right? Not at each other, right?
Right.
So yeah, we don't do this so much.
Yeah.
If you do that and you keep breathing and get through that awkwardness, then what most people report happens is they start to relax and they start to feel more open. So they feel like their genitals open, their heart opens, their mind opens, their soul opens. They feel seen. And you may have heard that adage that the eyes are the windows to the soul. Well, if you're looking into the soul and allowing your soul to be seen, that is deep intimacy. Is
Right.
that sacred energy exchange? It is in my book.
Yes.
So if
absolutely.
you expand that into that definition of sex, then you and I have just had sex.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's why I'm glowing.
Here's what's really cool about it is when you start to play around with that and expand your definition, it opens up this whole new universe of possibilities for what intimacy and sexuality really can be beyond the genitals. Because a lot of women during their treatments don't want to be sexual because, like we talked about before, if their hair's falling out or they're feeling nauseous, the last thing they want to do is have sex. But if it's been many months that you've been in treatment, then what do? You can't just go right back to having intercourse. So you need to find ways to create intimacy, to build bridges, to have fun and pleasure, and discover all that.
I'm having some aha moments here because I've never had cancer. My best friend from childhood is a breast cancer survivor. Hi, Mary Sue. And but I've had issues with my intestines over the years, for the last 20 years, and I'm fine now, and it's all cleared up. But it's just a journey that women go on in different segments of our lives, and I think about it, and I had stuck creativity, and some intimacy issues, and there was periods of time when I wasn't releasing my sexual energy. And when I was listening to you, I thought, well, it's even deeper than that, in that I've had different periods in my life where I isolate, and so I'm not having the intimate exchange,
Right.
That you're coaching me through even in this moment. So I really identify with the book in moving that energy and honoring that connection with other people. So I feel like this is really helpful for all women, not even if you're going through a life-threatening crisis.
Well, it is, because stop and think about where you learned about sex, right? I mean, most of us, we might have had a hygiene class in junior high school, and then we probably were told, good girls don't.
Right.
Don't be a slut, don't be cheap. But we never were taught about the pleasure that's possible from our body.
I certainly wasn't.
Nor was I.
Yeah.
It's like, and it's like the blind leading the blind. And then as we grow into adulthood, we don't know that there are these other possibilities. So knowing that there are other possibilities and taking the time to discover and learn, my goodness, there's endless possibilities for intimacy, for pleasure, for sensuality, for sexuality. Why not? I mean, our whole body is filled with erogenous zones, with pleasure points. I mean, one of the things that I suggest that people do is make a pleasure map. So you can do it yourself or with a partner, but starting with just feeling the skin on your face, with your fingertips or with your palms or with the backs of your fingers, or more of like a massage kind of a touch than a gentle caress. And you'll discover there are certain places where, oh, that feels really good, and others, well, not so much. Or you might have a place where it doesn't feel good at all. But until you know that, you don't know what brings you pleasure. And once you know it, then you can communicate that to your partner too. So you can do that with your entire body, because we are pleasure zones if we allow ourselves to feel it.
You are so enthusiastic.
I love it.
I really, I admire that you've turned your journey into sharing all this wisdom and turned it into a business by helping other women and speaking so Talk to me about that. That must be really empowering and a wonderful
Yeah.
thing for
What
you
I
to have
do-
a business out of your knowledge and your passion.
Yeah, well, like I was telling you before, it's really a calling. And I feel called because this isn't talked about to talk about it.
That's right.
And so that whoever can benefit from it can listen to it. So, I mean, there's 3 million women living in the United States with breast cancer in their history. 3 million. That's a lot.
Yeah.
And it's
that's right.
growing every year. And so I go to different cancer conferences. I was just at one in Nashville recently where there were 750 women there, and talking there and offering them tips and tools. And I do workshops and I give them what I call power tools, which some things that we women need to know, to wake our libidos back up if they're asleep. And of course, in order to be able to teach this, I have to research because I have to know what I'm talking about. So I'm constantly researching and trying new things with my partner, and then sharing that with other people. And I just love doing that. So I speak and I teach at several of the hospitals around here and that sort of thing. And any place people want me to come and speak, I will come and speak because I have a lot to say and there's a lot to learn.
Well, thank you so much. We're wrapping it up and we have a live performance. I'm going to return and perform another version of She's Beautiful. I'd like to remind all of our ladies out there that you're beautiful. Barbara, you're beautiful. I'm beautiful.
Yes, you
Flower
are.
in full bloom. I'd like to thank my crew and good night until next week.
She is facing a mountain she must climb. She is opening her heart to the sky. In her soul, she knows where she's going. On a path with no lies. Great Spirit, be her guide, walk beside her through the night, hold her in the light. She's beautiful, she's a survivor, she's beautiful. She found the strength inside of her. I'm here to remind her she's beautiful. Flower in full bloom. She is taking her life into her own hands. In her garden, planting new seeds. Trespassers better tread lightly. She found the power to tend to her needs. Sweet mother, hold her close, give her courage. In the night, she has found her own light. She's beautiful. She's a survivor. She's beautiful. She found the strength inside of her. I'm here to remind her she's beautiful. Flower in full bloom. Es hermosa. Una rosa preciosa. I see her dancing tonight by the light of the moon. She is waving